So you're looking to become a real estate agent and you're just like, you want to know what are the top things to avoid when becoming licensed. Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about the top 7 things why I think real estate agents fail. And stay to the end of the video and I'll give you my number 1 reason why I think most new agents fail in their first several years with a high fail-out rate of like 87%, or honestly, I think it's getting higher. So let's go. What's up, everyone? My name is Cameron Hodge, agent here with eXp Realty. On this channel, I talk about everything from my experiences being as a new agent and my journey moving forward, as well as eXp Realty. And I always have team leaders, broker owners, and individual agents reaching out days, nights, weekends. You know, if that's you and you want to just even have a conversation about what eXp can give you, or just being on the fence in general, give me a call, text, email, whatever you have to do. I have your back when moving to eXp Realty. And also, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to be notified every time I drop a new video. All right, so in this video, I want to talk about some of the top 7 reasons I have here on a piece of paper why I think real estate agents fail in their first couple years. And this isn't from experience like crazy, like I have 10 years of experience. Honestly, all these things are things that I failed on personally. So this list isn't like me just saying, oh, you know, expecting and this and that. Like, it's honestly things that I just really was terrible at when I started, and it was terrible. So number 1 is, I think, having over expectations. So I think we've all been there, right? Like, you're going to get licensed, or someone convinces you, like, hey, maybe you should get your real estate license, or you saw something like Ryan Serhant, the $1 million listing, or something crazy. Like, there's something that pushed you over the edge to decide to get into the industry. And I think all of us get into the industry and start, and we just have these crazy expectations, like, man, we're gonna get started, we're gonna start, you know, helping buying and selling and doing all these crazy things. And you know, it's that first phase where you're excited, you're like, man, I'm gonna change my life and change my family's life, and it's gonna be awesome, right? I think that's the first thing people need to realize. And I was the same way when I got licensed. I'm like, all right, once I get licensed, you know, I think COVID hit when that first happened. And, you know, it took me forever to get the test, and it was just super backed up in California. And then finally I got licensed, and it's like everyone's excited for like the first day. They're like, oh, congrats, you got your license. Even my broker, like, everyone's like, congrats. And then you wake up the next morning and no one cares. That's just the facts, right? So I think having like the right expectations and making sure you're talking to someone who's giving you a real honest opinion of the work that this takes, because it's not easy. And like, I've had times where I almost thought I was going to leave the industry last year, and just like a whole bunch of stress. You know, it's a roller coaster, right? Now, over time, like, there are things you can do to make sure it's not a roller coaster of income, but it's still in a roller coaster of emotions. And like, our job literally you're one part real estate agent, one part therapist, and that's just how it is for all your clients, and dealing with that as it moves forward. So it's definitely having the right expectations when you get into the industry. All right, number 2, going off of the previous one, is having crazy high goals your first year in. So I think we've all, if you look on YouTube and podcasts, I know I did when I was searching, you find the people that like sells 100 homes first year in real estate, or like 50 homes first year in real estate, and you're like, oh, sweet. And you create these crazy high goals, and you have these huge expectations, like, I'm going to do all this and this. But like, if you don't sit aside and realize and talk to someone who's been there, and start to really like work your way back of like how much it actually takes to do that level of volume, like, you start to realize, I think, you're like, holy cow, like, that's a lot of work to get there. And what I realized is, like, all right, I start smaller. Like, I think in my first year I did 6 transactions, and then I was like, you know what, the next year I want to double that. And that's kind of been my mantra ever since, and making sure I have and work with someone who's been there and done that, and making sure I make it. So my thing is, like, I always make it realistic, but it has to make me a little bit uncomfortable. Because if it's not making me a little uncomfortable, then I'm not pushing hard enough. Like, if I'm comfortable, like, oh yeah, I could easily be like, I'm gonna do 6 transactions, easy. Because I've done it, I know what it took to get to that point, but I want to go farther than that. So in order to double it, I'm like, that's pushing me into that uncomfort zone to where like something has to change. So not having crazy high goals is like, hey, make sure you work with someone who's been there, done that you respect, and they can help work backwards to like the daily activities that are going to get you to that goal, and then you can start to work out. Like me, I'm younger, but I had 2 boys. I think I started at the time. The one was, you know, super young, like just turning a year old when I first got licensed. My oldest was like 3 at the time, it was chaos, right? So it's just working back and making sure you have the right goals with the right person, so you're not over expecting, and that way you're going to feel down and out, when in reality, like, you probably were setting crazy high goals of someone who's been in the industry 5 to 10 years. Number 3, so I didn't do this when I first started, but I have met others who have, and mostly those have reached out to me and said they go independent off the bat. Nothing against that. To be fully honest, now that I know, like, if you put in like the hard work, like, you can easily find like listings, especially like EXP, like there's always agents say, hey, I have a listing, who wants to do an open house this weekend? You know, you can easily, if you have the money, you can get off, cold calling off the stop. Like, there's things you can do to get the ball rolling, but like those first months, possibly like 3 to 6 months, like, you're probably not going to close anything, but you're still going to have to be actively working that time, right? But sometimes when you go to join a team, you can kind of have some leads coming in. Hopefully it's a good team. You can have some leads coming in and take care of that and foster it, right? So I definitely went on the team the first year. I worked as an assistant. Like, I did the dirty work. I was getting paid, just above minimum wage. I did have a small bonus for when I was doing ISA work on top of that, but overall, like, the money wasn't a lot for working like pretty much 7 days a week on the position, taking inbound Zillow leads and doing all the work for my broker as an assistant. Like, I would never trade it for the world, because that hard, gritty work and really low pay has set an amazing foundation for my business. And I still recommend it for most people, is to start with a team. But to be honest with you, you can still go independent if you're working with someone who's maybe splitting deals with you, because it can still work hand in hand. My thing is just don't go independent thinking you're going to be by yourself. Like, that's the dumbest thing in the world, in my opinion, is like, why would you go by yourself if you have no idea what you're doing? I have seen people come from like other sales things and they just carry those skills over. Like, if you have the skills, like, go for it. But at the same time, like, realize if you have no idea, you've never been on sales before, this is your first time getting into like an outbound sales industry, then you have to be able to make sure you have the right expectations to not go independent, because you're going to feel alone. Even like when I decided to go independent last year, like, I'm not truly independent, because I'm still meeting and networking and talking with people every week who I can call and kind of work things through. So while I'm not on a team to get leads, I'm generating my own business. At the same time, it's always good to make sure, until you have that network, that I think you should be maybe in that team environment to get the scheduling down and everything that you need to do to succeed in this business. All right, number 4 is not having mentorship. So when I first joined the industry, I, had some mentorship to get started and whatever, but at the same time, like, I kind of sought outside sources and courses and stuff like that, and that's great. But they only take you so far. Really, like, that one-on-one connection is what changes the game, especially for me. And to be honest with you, I never even got that until I got to EXP, because in the upline that I have, like, I have access. There's 2 guaranteed Zoom calls a month, and then I can also book more with those individuals that have been there and done that I respect and that I emulate. I'm like, I want to be in that position one day. And once I switched to EXP, like, I honestly had like a direct connection of mentorship and people to work with me. Now I do have a separate coach to help me make sure I'm stay accountable to my goals, but in my mind, a coach is one thing to help me stay accountable, but a mentor is someone's just like, hey, if I have run into a situation in my business, like, hey, I hit a plateau, how can I work around this? And have someone who's been there and done that in the outside perspective to help you work around that. Not just emotional blocks where a coach would fit in, but more like a down to earth, like, hey, you can do these things. This works. This is what the return on this usually is, but you have this is how much cost and to put into it and stuff like that. So I think makes you, when you get into the industry, like, a lot of people, joining a team is the easiest way, because you might have a weekly team meeting. Like, you're going to have access to people on the team, like the top agents, the broker, or maybe if it's just a team lead, like, you're going to have someone who's directly there and responsible for you. Make sure it's a good team, to where it's someone who's putting in a lot of work and effort to grow you, and not just a team where I feel like when I first joined, where I just kind of was there, didn't really get many solid leads, and just kind of got, left to the winds, have you. All right, that brings me to number 5, which is not having training. So obviously, when you get into the industry, it's like you're probably only training is going to be the person you're directly connected with, unless you go independent. So obviously with EXP, we have like 15 to 20 classes, tons of classes every single day, on top of like what the upline provides in courses and support and things like that. So there's plenty of training. Also, if you're a new agent, the first 3 transactions, you will have to have a mentor tied to you who is an icon agent. That means one of the definitely like the top tier of agents in the area that will be local to you. And that's also a great benefit that EXP has when it comes to being a new agent. But at the same time, you got to make sure you're doing your own due diligence. So one thing I always have with agents who reach out, they're like brand new, is like, I did the Buffini 100 Days to Greatness. It's an amazing footprint for the value to start. It kind of sets the foundation of how to nurture your sphere and like obviously work by referral. In the beginning, if you're like me, like you're not going to have enough database to just work by referral. It's just not going to happen. Like I got a couple deals closed last year from referrals, but at the same time, like it's not enough to like grow a business like fast enough, right? It still involves patience, but just not fast enough. But for me, when I took that course, finally, it took me like a year after being in, but it set an amazing foundation of like how to continue to stay in front of my database while also doing like my lead generation activities to be able to grow the business at a faster rate and be able to build that database on the back end, but not forget them. Because most agents kind of forget them. That's one thing I knew I didn't want to do. It's just to leave my database and come back 5 to 10 years in the future trying to reconnect those lost deals. Like I want to make sure I stay in front of them and know that I am their agent for life. So make sure you have training. And I definitely think that's one agent. A lot of agents fail so they don't seek training. And it might even have to be real estate related. Like you can seek sales training, like personal development. Because if the home life is trash, like everything else is gonna be trash. And that's coming from experience. I've been there. Like if the home life isn't being taken care of, then your business is gonna suffer along with it. They go hand in hand. All right, number 6 that I think agents fail, and that's poor scheduling. Man, is that me. So when I first started, like yes, I had a structure because I was working kind of as an assistant. So there was already a structure in place for me to follow. But once I went independent, I realized I'm like, holy cow, I have to structure my day. Obviously I have kids, I got a spouse, like some of the kids are sick. Like there's always chaos that screws up the scheduling. But one thing I did have to do is I'm like, okay, I gotta be a big boy. I have to start waking up earlier in the day. Like right now I'm shooting this video earlier in the day before the kids wake up because that's what I have to do. That's what I have to do in order to get the main money activities that don't involve human communication done in the morning. So that way when I progress further in the day, I am able to kind of take care of it as it comes, right? So I take care of like the main money making activities, the things, the big overview stuff in the morning. I wake up around, by 5:30 a.m. I'm up and going, starting my day, and to be able to move forward with that. Even like obviously because I'm also licensed in Florida, like when I've been on the West Coast at the time and then having to deal with stuff on the East Coast a little bit, I'd be taking stuff at 6 a.m., which honestly was great because I could get like a lot of big things started and problems taken care of in the day before it even got to that point later in the day. So scheduling is a huge issue. I failed with it really up until the last like 4 months. And then now I have more of a structure to my, like, this is when I do this is when I do this. I don't let clients just completely run my life. Like obviously when you're in escrow, things come up, there's issues, but you'd be surprised when you start saying no or like being like structuring like, hey, this is when I do this is when I do this. You'd be amazed at how pretty much any good client is gonna they work with you, right? Like I'm like, hey, well, this is when we show houses. Obviously the market's hot right now, so a market will come on 1 week and be gone by the next Monday, Tuesday, especially at least in the California side. With what I have over there. So, and now those situations like, hey, like here are the days I show houses. So this is when we review listings that are coming on market. If anything is like serious and immediate, like I'm always looking every day, but this is when we expect to view homes and making sure that like you set the expectation with your clients. And that kind of plays into the scheduling part. It's like, when you get into the business, it's really easy to say yes to everything. But I think one thing I realized really quick is when I say yes to everything, like I'm just a basket case. Like I'm not treating my clients right, I'm not treating my family right. And that's a huge thing. I think that definitely plays into that 80% fail rate that we see in the industry. And the number 7, which is also the biggest thing that I think agents fail at and cause them to leave the industry, is just fear. So really, like up until last year, September of 2021, I almost left the industry. I was done. I was still a real broker. I felt like alone. I had actually closed 2 deals on top of that, 3 deals already, starting. I really didn't go full time until like May of 2021, May, June. Is really when I started to actually take this seriously and had left my hourly position with that first broker. And things were going good, but it was just perspective. And I was, but then what I realized is like it's fear. Like I really wasn't doing what I needed to be doing. Like even to this day, like I still get nervous. Like I just had, a call to for sale by owner this past weekend, helped a client get into, there's like no homes on market. Well, this seller had the thing. Had to make that call. Do I get a little nervous making the call to for sale by owners and stuff like that with expired? Yeah, absolutely. But it has to be done. And some days, like, sure, I don't always get done what I need to. I'm human and I fully admit that. But at the same time, like even shooting these videos, like eventually, you push past the fear. Do I necessarily want to do it? No, absolutely not. But it's pushing that past that fear, and just as long as you just keep pushing a little bit more. I've realized those small steps and things make the biggest long-term goals. I would rather push just a little bit every day to eventually, like I start now, by the end of the year, that little bit that you pushed, instead of starting at 0, now you're at 75. or even 100, So I think that it's just making small steps and pushing past that fear. Like even like you talk to main industry leaders and stuff in the industry as you progress and you network, and even when I talk to them, they still get nervous, whether it's talking on stage or calling still. You always have that weird feeling. It's just learning to kind of live with it and embrace it. And realize that every time that you push aside the fear and move forward, you're already better than like most of the people left behind you. Because most will not succumb to that fear. And I've met agents who would say, well, I just want to grow my business naturally. And I'm all for that. I definitely do it. I'm definitely all about building that database to get to a point of great referrals. But I also realize that if I want to grow a bigger business, you have to push past fear and keep growing it. So that's my top 7 reasons why I think agents fail in the industry, and also I failed in all those areas at some point in the last couple years, and I'm sure I will still struggle with some of them moving into the future, because that's life. It's how it is. So without that, if you're ever looking to make the move to eXp Realty, or just have a conversation about it, give me a call, text, email, whatever you have to do. I have your back when moving to eXp Realty, and without that, I will see you in the next video.